Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Friday Fast 15, the snack size show where we tackle big tech topics in under 15 minutes. Current events keep security operations top of mind these days. Thankfully, Caitlin Frank, our Director of Marketing, joined me for a conversation about our new cybersecurity ebook today called Managing Cyber Risk Conversations with Executive Stakeholders. Welcome to the show, Caitlin.
Thanks for having me, Kim.
Caitlin, here at Crossfuze, we talk security operations a lot. Why does this topic need to remain top of mind for both practitioners and business leaders?
I mean, it's a great question, and probably one that explains why I, as a marketing leader, am here talking about cybersecurity. And it's because it's a topic that really cannot be ignored by anybody at any levels of a company, but especially those in a leadership position. I mean, you look at what happened just in the last week or two. There's been several security breaches, one being the very infamous now Kaseya hack, which some are saying is the most substantial security breach ever. And what we've learned from that is these kinds of things don't just impact giant organizations. They can have a very substantial downstream impact as well. It's not only you as an organization that are at risk, but the organizations you serve and the customers that they serve. So, it's increasingly top of mind. The Kaseya hack alone, or notwithstanding the Kaseya hack, back over the last year, throughout the whole response to the COVID pandemic, as organizations were shifting to a remote workforce. How do you balance the need to enable your employees to work collaboratively and effectively, and yet keep your organization, secure? So it's a conversation that spans any role. Everybody relies on it to do their work, and it's something that if you as a leader, whether you're a manager or just a team leader or an executive, you need to be aware of what's at stake and what the risk is, what the level of risk is, and just be more educated about how you might address some of these things and what are some of the options. So it's there's so much there. It's very new. It's very evolving, and it's something it's not going away anytime soon.
Exactly. So, Caitlin, what are the conversations that are happening at that executive level?
I mean, there's a lot, but I think what business leaders need to ask each other, and not just the chief information security officer or the CIO or the person that's on paper in charge of it, but everybody needs to be asking what are we doing to keep our organization secure. It seems like an obvious one, and the follow-up to that is what are our vendors and our partners doing to keep themselves secure? Because a lot of times if they go down, we're going down with them. So many, the way businesses work today, you rely on so many partners. Nobody's kind of working in their own anymore. So you rely on other organizations to help you do the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. And so if any one of those pillars drops, you could be putting your own business at risk. So it's asking a much broader question of, not only internal processes and internal technologies that you're putting in place, but what are you asking of your key partners and your key vendors? Because that risk fundamentally changes, what we ask of our partners and what expectations we set of our partners.
And as cybersecurity people and leaders go through these exercises, what are the challenges to reaching alignment?
It's often really just a lack of understanding. This stuff is really changing so rapidly, and it's evolving so rapidly. It's definitely not covered in your standard MBA programs that so many of today's execs have come out of. If you mentioned the ebook that we put out recently, and if you look at that, you'll see a quote from a Gartner study from last year that found the top 3 reasons why enterprise-sized organizations take a reactive approach to cyber threats is, first of all, lack of understanding of the magnitude of the risk and consequences. Number 2 is the assumption that risk is an IT problem and not a business problem. And number 3 is the notion that attacks are something to be dealt with once they've already happened. Like, oh, there's nothing you could possibly do to prepare, so we might as well just wait until something happens and then deal with it later. That's, if you go into it with that mindset, the amount of risk that you could find yourself in is probably pretty staggering. So the important thing is, and obviously as a marketing person, I'm not a cybersecurity expert by any stretch of the imagination, but as somebody that's often a part of these conversations at a leadership level, it's something you need to get used to talking about and used to asking the right questions, and taking a stance of always learning and figuring out how to educate yourself on these topics, because that's the only way that you as a team can make informed quality decisions for your business.
Exactly. It's all about teamwork. So, Caitlin, we've talked about why security operations should be top of mind for everyone, and we've discussed the conversations that need to happen to ensure strategic alignment with business objectives, and we've highlighted some challenges that teams run into. Do you have any final thoughts for our audience today?
Really just, expanding on my last thought, the responsibility for a company's security operations, it doesn't live with just the CISO or with just the IT executive. More and more, those people in those roles need to take on that role of being educators and learn how to inform and recommend action. Because with that's how you get the buy-in, and that's how you get accountability across the board. There needs to be a common understanding of the risks, of what's at stake, and that's how you can have those more informed conversations. You can get more diverse perspectives and figure out where to balance that. If you're talking about a spectrum of a fully locked down organization versus one that's fully exposed, it's very unlikely that anybody's going to be on those extreme ends. But knowing where to put that point in somewhere in the middle, that's a conversation that needs to happen with leaders from every function. And so just knowing how to be that sort of support role, that educator role, and knowing how to guide those conversations and facilitate those discussions that might be uncomfortable to have, but you need to have them in order to know what you're dealing with.
Well, Caitlin, this has been a pleasure. It is so interesting to hear a business leader's perspective on cybersecurity issues. Thank you for helping with this project today.
Absolutely, happy to help. And again, there's a lot more that is expert written in our ebook. So I encourage anybody who's listening and watching to go check that out.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This has been the Friday Fast 15 Conversations in Security Operations with our Director of Marketing, Caitlin Frank. If you'd like to learn more, reach out at letstalk@crossfuze.com. And for more snack-sized conversations, subscribe to the Friday Fast 15 on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube.